So, I got duped. Maybe. I like to think that I know a good bit about sports. You guys have seen me talk at length about several different sports here on this channel, but most of them have been domestic. It has come to my attention that my perception of a particular athlete who hails from the US but plays overseas isn't exactly what he's painted as over here. Because in the US, the sports media has bamboozled us. I know this particular player because Pat McAfee went on about him being the best in the world in his sport.
The greatest player on earth is from America.
A buddy of mine who follows the situation a lot closer than I do with better perspective and a great up-and-coming content creator is gonna make the argument that I needed, and most of America's fans need. Okay, see you soon, bye.
We're going to turn now to the young American athlete taking the soccer world by storm. Christian Pulisic is a 21-year-old.
You are not only one of the most celebrated football players in the world right now.
Christian Pulisic is taking over the sports world.
This guy's like the phenom guy, right? He's like the LeBron James of soccer. Definitely.
I say right foot creep, oh, I'm walking with that heater.
Christian Pulisic has been hailed as God's gift to earth by the American media. He's a very talented youngster and has made a name for himself in the Bundesliga with Dortmund and is now showing some decent performances in the Premier League with Chelsea. But to any die-hard football fan, it's clear what Pulisic is, a prospect. But recently there's been this clip from the show Pawn Stars where a guy brought in a Pulisic jersey and the appraiser named Pulisic the LeBron James of soccer. So I, understandably, was in tears watching this clip. So I talked to my buddy Mike about it, and he didn't realize what was so funny about the clip, because all he's heard in the media is how great Pulisic is, but from my perspective as an outsider looking in, I'm very confused as to why he's this acclaimed. I'm a longtime football fan. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember being shocked at Ronaldinho's runs from the left or the iconic 2012 Barca side, and in recent memory, the now legendary Messi-Suarez-Neymar link-up. Is it obvious that I'm a Barca fan? And I just love everything about the sport to this day. And I remember a few years ago hearing the name Christian Pulisic. He was a youngster playing in Germany at the time and he was showing some real promise. This kid came out of the gate swinging. He had a very successful first season with Dortmund, bagging 3 goals and 6 assists in 29 games, which does not sound that impressive, but he wasn't developing to be a goal scorer, he was developing to be a playmaker, coming in from the wing and trying to set up goals. Plus, he was only 18 years old and he wasn't a starter most games. He often came in as a substitute. For his age, in a league as competitive as the Bundesliga, those kinds of numbers were few and far between. Where Pulisic really started to shine in Dortmund was his 18-19 season. He really found his footing and started to prove to be a real impact in both the Bundesliga and the Champions League. He bagged 4 goals and 4 assists in 20 games and was then transferred over to Chelsea, where his best season was easily his first. He adapted to English football really quick and was a real asset to Chelsea, bagging 9 goals and 4 assists in 25 games. For a 21-year-old American in the Premier League, those kinds of numbers were unheard of. But unfortunately, his career in Chelsea since that first season hasn't improved as much as one would hope. It's clear he's a better player right now. His chance creations and his dribbling have improved significantly, but when it comes to those on-paper stats, his goals and assists just haven't been as great as you'd hope it to be. It also needs to be noted that he's very prone to injury. In his time at Chelsea alone, he has missed 40 games due to injury, which is a lot. Now, I think I've painted a decent enough picture of Pulisic's career so far, which comes from an unbiased perspective. I don't support any team in the Premier League. I'm a complete neutral, and I wish nothing but the best for Pulisic. But I'm sure many of you are shocked that Pulisic's career isn't as grand or great than the media would lead you to believe, which leads me on to my main point. Why is the media hyping up Pulisic so much? Well, the obvious answer is that he's an American footballer who's half decent, but I think there's more to it than just that. There are so many great American players who play outside the MLS, my favorite being Sergino Dest, who has done so great in Barca this season, but you also have Brooks, McKennie, Reyna, just to name a few, who are great American players outside of the MLS. Put it into perspective how Pulisic ranks amongst other footballers, I'm going to use FootMob, which is a very trusted and reliable website that shows match scores and each individual player's match rating after each match. Pulisic has a 6.95 average match rating, which is decent, but in the Premier League alone, he is 142nd out of 281 on average match rating, which if you do the very basic math, is below average. This isn't even counting other top leagues where he would still most likely rank lower than average. The reason I think Pulisic is getting this treatment is because America has never been a real contender for any international football competitions, such as the World Cup. No offense. And they're really trying to kick their foot through the door with Pulisic. The last time they were in a decent position for the World Cup was in 2002, where they made the quarterfinals and landed 8th. But in recent memory, they didn't even qualify for the 2018 World Cup. I think that since the US are co-hosting the World Cup in 2026, they're trying their hardest to hype up their players to drive a lot of local traffic to the World Cup in 2026 because, let's face it, American people in general haven't really cared much about football, like, ever. This is very interesting because most countries have one core national sport where most of their money is invested in, but America already has 3 with basketball, baseball, and American football. So I don't know how adding another sport to that pile will work out, especially considering they are very late to the party. The rest of the world has been investing time and money into football for centuries, and I don't think America quite has the talent needed to really push football. I mean, if Pulisic is their big star player, the idea of a successful World Cup campaign should just completely be thrown out the window. I think a lot of this investment into football that America seems to be planning really comes down to this upcoming World Cup in Qatar. If they manage to reach at least the quarterfinals, I think this big marketing push will end up proving successful for the 2026 World Cup. But their approach has so far been very big picture. It's going to start with Pulisic, and if my theory is right, we're going to see more and more media coverage on American footballers, all leading up to the 2026 World Cup. If this ends up panning out, I'm very excited to see a new hat tossed into the ring for international competitions and how much talent could come out of America if more money is invested into their youth programs. For decades now, it seems that all we're seeing in the World Cup is either France, Spain, Germany, Argentina, Italy, Portugal, and Brazil just completely running the show and taking the trophy home. The last time we saw a team that wasn't just mentioned win the World Cup was in 1966 when England won it. It's been so long since I've been surprised at the outcome of a World Cup. It's been insanely predictable for years now, and the beauty of football comes down to its shocking, drama-filled, unpredictable moments. Now, I'm not saying that America is suddenly going to be a national side that's capable of winning the World Cup by 2026, but what I am saying is that America does have the talent and resources to really make a name for themselves in the football world. So, I think it'd be interesting, and I honestly do hope it does pan out the way they're planning it to. That's all from me. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you're liking what you're seeing, subscribe to the SRS channel, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.